Welcome to Armchair Expert. I'm Dax Shepard. This is Maximus Mouse, Monica Pladman.
Thank you.
You're not looking super Maximus right now because you just put a blanket over your legs because you were chilly.
Don't expose me, but I wasn't chilly. It's the most beautiful day in Los Angeles I could ever imagine.
Yeah, not to make people mad at us who are in frigid cold right now.
I don't even care because you know why? Because we've been experiencing a lot of actual horrible weather here.
Mm-hmm.
But
the drought's over.
The drought is over.
Yes.
That's exciting.
We're celebrating.
This is one of those things where I'm pretending like I'm happy that the drought is over.
Okay.
I mean, look, I am in theory, but I hate the rain so much.
Mm-hmm.
So yay, the drought's over, but I don't want more rain. I don't like it.
Okay, I know you have seasonal mood disorder.
Seasonal affective disorder.
Well, it's called sad.
Yeah.
Oh, that's clever.
I know. Works on a lot of levels.
I understand your position.
Thanks.
But you know, the folks in Nebraska have been suffering floods.
But you know what? We're paying a really high price to live here.
That's true. That's what I've been saying with all this rain. I'm like, guys, it's expensive to live here and the taxes are super high. You get what you pay for, and this is not what I paid for.
I have felt the same way. Yeah.
Who do we complain to about that?
God.
Gavin Newsom?
Sure.
How do you say his last name?
Newsom. Yeah.
Okay, there's no N deep in there, Newsom or anything.
No, and actually, if I'm probably wrong, but I actually think there's no W in there. I think it's N-E-U. Am I wrong? I'm probably wrong.
I don't know, like news,
also,
the son of a newsman?
This is an intro we're doing.
Yeah, so let's get to it. Chris
There
D'Elia.
is a W.
Oh, there is. Okay. Chris D'Elia, who is a hysterical stand-up who I have seen live a couple different times and immediately fell in love with. He also has a great podcast called The Congratulations Podcast with Chris D'Elia. He was on many different TV shows.
Whitney.
He was on Whitney.
Undatable.
And Undatable. And he's very funny.
Yeah.
And so please enjoy Chris D'Elia.
He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert.
As you walked in here, Chris D'Elia, that's how I introduce you.
Nice.
You said, I don't know if we've met. And I'll tell you
When did we meet?
I'll tell you where we met. It was at the Comedy Store.
Okay.
Is that the right name of it?
Yeah.
The one that's by the deli?
Yeah. Maybe Laugh Factory.
The Laugh Factory.
Okay.
Okay. And I was there, and I did a set, and Tom Arnold was hosting. Do you remember this? Tom Arnold
Dude,
would do
I
like a night
remember
there.
this.
Yes, and
Oh my God,
I
yeah.
performed, and then you performed, and I was aware of you in some capacity. I think maybe you had already done the show with Whitney,
Maybe,
or
yeah.
that was just happening. So I knew who you were. And I wanted to talk to you about it on here because I was very prepped to dislike you.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, I mean, naturally, if I see a guy who's like vaguely handsome, so when I saw you take the stage, I was like, I don't know, think I like this guy. He's cool. He's got cool hair. He's got like all this swagger.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna like this guy. And then despite all that, that's the hole I started in. I just immediately loved your set. I thought you were fantastic, and I came up to you afterwards and really fawned over you and stuff. So that's
you know what?
where
I do
we
remember
met.
that. You know what? Here, that's. It's funny. I'm used to. I feel like I always like am ready for somebody to not like me, especially in the comedian world, because like I've heard a lot of like, oh yeah, people are funny because they're outcasts or this and that, and like but being an outcast is in your head. It has nothing to do with what you look like. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
So, but yeah, so I've always felt that outcast. But yeah, I remember meeting you now. But what happens is, see, you know what it is you're too well known. If you're too well known, I forget. I forget that I met you because because I knew who you were obviously before I met you, and then I met you, and then after that. It was just like, oh, but you're still Dax Shepard. And then that just like, I forgot that I met you because you're still that guy that's in quote unquote larger than life in my head. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, first of all, that's hard for me to imagine that in
you're
your
you,
head.
Because you're you. But
I have
had
had the exact same experience where I see someone and I have this sense of familiarity, like, oh, I've met them.
Yeah.
But then I go, that can't be it. I just know them from shows.
Yeah. I've done it the wrong way too, where it's like, oh, we've met, and they're like, the guy's like, nah, I was just on The Real World, and I'm like, oh yeah, whoops. Do you know what I mean? So it's like,
Sure.
So I have that fear.
It's hard to navigate. The one that blew my mind was I met John Hamm somewhere, and I said, "Oh my God, it's awesome to meet you.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan." He goes, "Dude, we've hung out," and I go, "That's not possible."
Yeah.
And he goes, "No, we've hung out," and I go, I don't think so. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. I would remember hanging out with you. And he goes, here's what happened. We were watching football. You said this. I said this. And then I was like, this is exactly how I sound. Like, his memory of our interaction sounds exactly what I would be saying. And I go, how could this be that I wouldn't remember meeting John Hamm, who I, at the time, worshiped from
Mad Men? Yeah.
Mad Men.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's bonkers, right?
It's weird how that does happen, but it does happen for sure.
Now, and I was also quite aware of you because I'm friends with Ricky Glassman.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay, cool.
And so I, of course, would hear a lot about your show while you were on Undatable.
Yeah.
And then I know Bill as well. So I do feel like I know you better
And
than
Jackie.
And Jackie Tone.
You're friends with Jackie?
Yeah, I know Jackie. No, I knew Jackie from years ago. She's in the
Glow.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's doing
That's
quite
amazing.
well.
Yeah.
I think she was on the wrap-up show on Stern the other day.
Yeah,
which was
she
a big,
was.
big
I
thrill
thought-
for everyone.
Yeah.
Have you done Stern?
No, I never did Stern. I did the I don't know. They got another show or something.
The
like
wrap-up
Is that what
show?
it is? Yeah, the wrap-up show. Yeah.
Well, because he loves Whitney.
Yeah.
And Whitney loves you.
Yeah.
Does she love you?
Yeah. Yeah, she does. Yeah, we love each other. She's like my sister. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
She's just great.
Whitney Cummings.
Yeah.
When did you guys meet?
We were just like kind of started stand up around the same time, and it's like so fucking scary to start doing open mics.
Oh, yeah.
And we started in Hollywood, so it's like it's even more because it's like you're trying to be seen, but you're trying to not be seen. Do you know what I mean? Because you don't want to be seen too early,
Right,
because then
before
people are
you're-
going to think you suck.
Yeah.
But you also want to get in front of an audience. So it was her and I we would run into each other, and I think she maybe started a little bit before me because I would see her and I'd already be like, who is this? She's good, she's funny. And then we just kind of like, it's one of those things where it's like you run into each other enough, and then you're like, okay, I guess we're going to be seeing each other. What's the deal?
Yeah.
And then we became really close. We became fast friends. And then she said, I always say this, but she said, because we were friends, we would even like write together, and then she would be like, and then one day she was like, I wrote a sitcom and I want you to play my boyfriend. And you hear that and you always think, okay, I wonder who's going to end up playing it.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean-
you have two thoughts. Like, well, there's no way your sitcom's getting made.
Well, there's that.
And
Yeah,
secondly,
I mean-
if it does, they certainly won't let you cast me.
right,
in
of
it.
course, yeah. So she wrote it, and I auditioned for it. I went through all the things with the hoops, and and she had my back, and I got the part, and then we made the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was on for 2 years?
Yeah, 2 years. Yeah.
Okay, but I want to go back. So I always find it really interesting when the rare times where someone comes in here and their parent was in show business.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just so unique, right?
Yeah.
So your dad
Yeah.
is a director.
Yeah, he's a director and a producer. Yeah, he's working on a new show with Eva Longoria coming out, I guess, this end of this year, or maybe next year. I don't know what it is. It's called Hotel something. It's something about a hotel in
He's
Miami.
a very good son.
Yeah, I'm a fucking great son.
A stellar son.
He
It's
wor-
called like
yeah.
Hotel
Yeah.
California. No, that can't be it. That's an Eagles song.
That's what most people know about their parents. That's the amount of knowledge most people
Hey, you know
have
what?
of their
That's-
parents' jobs.
Well,
That's
for you,
actually-
yes.
yeah, for me.
You're super guilty of that.
Yeah, I'm
because
proud
her
of
father is an engineer. He's a civil engineer, which I have great interest in. And as I've tried to drill down into what exactly he does, she runs out of info really quick.
Yeah, that's good. That's like I don't know shit. If somebody would be like, some my friend's dad worked. All he would say when I was in high school, I'd say, "What's your dad doing?" He would say, "Import export." I don't know
Well,
what the fuck that means.
That means a lot
He
in New
deals
Jersey,
drugs, maybe?
where you grew up.
Could
yeah, yeah,
Right?
Yes.
Because a lot of the graph,
Yeah.
the mafioso graph,
Yeah.
took place in import
Yeah,
export because you're sifting off the top of
It
these
sounded
deliveries,
shady.
right?
Yeah,
Did they have a really nice house like Tony Soprano?
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they
Could have
did.
been. Yeah, It could
Yeah. But you grew up in New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
and your dad is a first generation Italian. Is that accurate? That's not accurate.
Yeah, I
is it?
think that is accurate.
Okay.
I believe
His
that is
mom and dad
accurate.
moved here from Italy.
Yeah, I think so. They're from Bari.
Not,
Bari.
what do you call them? Nana and Pippi, or what do you call
No,
them? Italian?
no. You know what? They were over here already. I think it was their parents that came over.
Oh, okay. So
I don't
second
fucking
generation.
know.
Great grandma.
I'm bad. Not only am I a bad son, I'm a bad grandson.
Yikes.
Yeah.
There's a
Well, we'll
lot I
probably
don't know.
expose you to be a bad boyfriend before we're through. That's where we're gonna
when I
end
was
up.
I remember thinking too, like, this is kind of jumping all over the place, but I had the worst memory. My parents would tell me shit, and I'd be like, oh, I forget it. I don't know where I'm from. I don't know what the hell they're from. And my grandmother was dying. And I remember thinking, she's dying. I'm going to go have a fucking long conversation with her. I'm going to remember, because I want to know where she was from. I want to know about her childhood. I want to know about her mom.
Sure.
I went up. I was sat there for an hour and a half, talked. It might have been 2 hours, talking this and that. And then I learned so much, and I just don't remember it now.
You just did a data dump on your
And
way
I
home.
feel bad, but I think that I just have a bad memory, or what the fuck. I don't know what it is, but I
Well,
don't
can
remember
I ask a
shit.
super personal question?
Okay.
Are you on antidepressants?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So my wife is, and she's very open
Yeah.
about it, which I applaud. because
Lexapro.
People need it.
Yeah. Is that part of it?
I don't know. She has the worst. Chris, we've gone on vacations
Yeah.
to places that she doesn't remember that
Oh,
we've
man.
gone on.
Well, I hate to say this, but that makes me feel way better,
I bet.
Yeah.
because I thought I was like going to get dementia at like 40.
She has the, right, Monica?
Yeah.
She's talking regularly about, she thinks
Yeah.
she has
She has
Alzheimer's.
early
or-
onset Alzheimer's.
Yeah, she's quite convinced she
I
has
mean,
it.
I don't remember.
She doesn't.
Yeah.
And
But
again,
that-
this is not. I do think if you're evaluating being absolutely miserable in life
Yeah.
versus having a great memory of the conversation with
True,
your grandma,
yeah. Oh,
you
yeah.
must pick.
Oh, no, the
not-
Lexapro helps.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and weirdly, I think there's something aspirational about it, which is living in the past really doesn't help anyone all that much. Being
True.
present and aware of today really is, in some bizarre way. I think we're all pretty attached to the past.
Yeah.
In often a pathological way. So I
Yeah.
don't know that it's even
It's
bad.
a real human thing
Yes.
to think about the past.
Yes. Well, that we have this really corny saying in AA, which is if you have 1 foot in yesterday and 1 foot in tomorrow, you pee all over today. Do you like that quote?
Oh, I do
Chris?
like that quote.
Well,
like
because it has
that.
pee-pee in it, right?
Yeah, I like pretty much any quote that ends with people.
But it's really curious with my wife. She has this terrible memory. And then, right, Monica, she'll stumble onto a topic about her childhood. And then she has this incredible memory.
She has a very selective memory. She's also amazing at line memorization.
Yeah, okay.
You know?
Or movie plots.
Oh yeah, Game of Thrones. She can tell you anything.
really?
That's a hard one to know.
I can't do that. And I love the show.
So she'll. Oh yeah, no, I can't do that either.
You can't do that either.
I'm, like,
so
way
you're
worse
you've
than
got
both of
no like pocket of
Nah, I remember
clarity.
stuff as a kid. I remember stuff as a kid. Like I was talking to my friend from childhood, and I was telling him, remember this, remember that, and he was like, I don't remember that shit, and I was like, oh, I'm back. You know what I mean?
I'm back.
Like I got my memory back. But then he was saying stuff I didn't remember, so I was like, maybe I just picked the stuff to remember, you know?
But what's really bizarre is, so my mom, who's also medicated, she came in here and this bitch can
wow.
remember every single classmate's name.
Yeah.
From like
Yeah.
third grade.
Well, that's kind of a mom thing, though, right? Like to
Might
just
be.
because my mom's like, you remember. My mom will bring up, you remember fucking Lauren, whoever? And I'm like, no. And she'll be like, oh, yeah, she's pregnant and she's getting married. And every time I go home, somebody got pregnant, somebody got married, and somebody died.
yes. And
That's a mom thing.
that's a big
Yeah.
mom thing. And also I've found that even the most loving moms, they love spreading terrible news. It's like
Yeah,
when they
well,
find out
yeah.
someone's kid has a like terminal illness, they can't text fast enough
No,
to
I know.
tell because I'll get these texts from her. It's people I don't even know.
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
Aunt Becky's
Yeah.
coworker, their
Yeah,
kid has
right,
leukemia,
coworker,
and I'm
yeah.
like, Jesus Christ, I
Yeah.
don't need to know when a kid has leukemia. I have 2 little kids.
I know. Not only do I not know that person, now I feel bad about somebody I don't know.
Oh yes.
I specifically don't watch the news for this reason.
100%.
Yeah.
It's like I think when they hear that that bit of terrible news, there's got to be a part of their brain that's just excited as hell to start
You know what it's
disseminating that.
It's like when you're in high school and somebody starts to like a band and you're like, yeah, but I know their earlier stuff. That's the mom version of that. Or if you gotta check out this band. That's what it's like as a high school. You gotta check out this band. It's amazing. It's not a dad thing at all. My dad never does that. ever.
Yeah, I guess my dad, when he was alive, he wasn't big into that either.
Yeah.
That is curious.
wonder what that
maybe
is.
it's because moms are feeling it, like especially if it's a kid or something, they're like feeling.
They're
it
more
super
emotional for sure,
intensely.
yeah.
So they need to talk to people about it so that they can, not bear the burden of it.
For whatever reason, as I knew you were coming in today, I felt like this would be a good topic for you and I to talk about, which is, we just watched this incredible documentary called The Mask You Live In. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's all about how we raise boys in this culture. And as I'm watching it, I'm recognizing like, oh, check. Yes, I am so embarrassingly a cliche of all the things they told me would make me a man.
Okay.
I ran towards.
Right.
And all the shame I carry and all these weird things and the feelings I learned to stuff down. The fact that I haven't cried since I was 11. All these things.
Wow.
I think guys, yes. So we kind of get empathy beaten out of us. There's a lot of great psychologists in this documentary to say that these, what we think are innate male-female dynamic, aren't really. That's not true, and they have some great data to back that up. Like we are just as empathetic.
Right.
It's just it's stomped out of us. So I do think, and I find myself doing this. My best defense against finding out someone's dying of terminal cancer is to ignore it. Like, because I'm not going to be able to express the emotions then attached to that. That's kind of been beaten out of me as a kid.
Yeah, sure.
So my best defense is like, just fucking ignore that. If it's not in front of me, I can just put that in a little, little compartment in my head. Even when I hear these horrendous tragedies, you'll hear these like horrendous tragedies, and I'll spend about 30 seconds on it, and then I go, nope, I don't like how that's making me feel. I'm not gonna think about this school shooting for more than 30 seconds. And it's a weird. Like a muscle memory thing for me. Do you
That's
do
an
that?
interesting thing. I think, well, for me, like, I have, like, have you actually not, you don't cry?
I don't. And weirdly, I'd love to. But at this point, I just broke that mechanism.
Yeah, sure. So I do sometimes, like if I hear about a school shooting or something like that, and I really sit and think about it, I feel emotional, and I'm not always crying about it, but sometimes I'm like, I really feel it, and I will spend longer than 30 seconds thinking about it and this and that. But I do have things where, like, I definitely do this. I do this almost daily. Like if a song comes on and it makes me feel emotional, I'm like, turn that fucking thing off. I don't want to feel that. Well, I do that almost daily, and I appreciate it's a good song, and I know. But I'm like, why do I want to feel that way right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason to. I'm just driving.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To meet a buddy.
Yeah.
But
you don't need to walk into coffee like
yeah.
all wrung out from
like,
hearing
I was just
Air
listening to
Supply.
Enya. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that'll
Yeah.
get you.
So,
But I have this lie, too, that I tell myself that confirms why I'm that way. Was unaware of that. It was a lie until quite recently. But I go, no, you know what? My role in this society is to be the guy who like carries a few people out of the burning building or goes and fights the people running at us. So I don't have time to get bogged down in the emotions. I need to be in action.
Yeah.
Like I'll be the first to respond to one of these crises. And I'm lucky enough to found myself in a couple crises, and I was very proud of how I behaved in them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it kind of just perpetuated this thing where it's like, oh, no. We all have a role. So Kristen's role is to get very emotional about it and spread the word and maybe prevent it. And then my role is to like just be Terminator and no emotions and act. Not let all that cloud my reaction to things. But I think now I'm learning that's just the whole thing's a fib.
yeah. I mean, that is such a role. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I don't think of myself that way. I mean, I don't know. Like, when I was in like 19, I was like, I got to learn. I'm a man. I have to learn how to like defend myself. And I went to take jujitsu, and I did that for 6 years. And I realized that it's not me, I'm not the fucking fighter guy. I'm not going to compete. I was getting to the point where I was doing it 6 years. People were like competing, and I was like, I'm not going to compete. Like,
right.
I always thought of myself as the funny guy. Do you know what I mean? And like, I don't need to be doing all this shit. But like, I stopped doing it. I remember I fucked my knee up, and then I had to get surgery. And
From
then
the jujitsu?
Yeah. And then I was like, I'm not that guy, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And once I got the knee surgery, I tried to go back to jujitsu, and I was like, what am I doing? This is not me. And then I started stand up.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is. I always wanted to do stand up. I was like, oh, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
But there's something really interesting there, which is why on earth did you even start?
The jujitsu.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I don't know. Maybe it was that.
You're 19.
Yeah.
You're like, now I'm a man,
Yeah.
and now I feel like lacking in some of these boxes I'm supposed to check, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I did. Yeah. I guess I did feel that. I never felt like a tough guy.
Right.
You know. And I remember too talking to my friend who took karate at like a young age and did it for years and then turned like whatever 16 and was like, fuck this, I'm not doing it anymore. And I was like, why? I was like, because we were friends, we were like 21 and I was knee deep in jujitsu and I was like, don't you want to learn how to defend yourself?
Right.
And he was like, why do you want to learn how to defend yourself? And I was like, well, what if somebody fucking attacks me? And he said, nobody's gonna fucking attack you. And I was like, well, it could totally happen. And he was like, it's 2000 and fucking whatever it was. No, 2004. Like, you don't live in like the 800s or like, people
right.
And I was like, he's wrong. Somebody could totally attack me. And nobody's attacked me since then.
Well, I'm so glad you bring this
right.
up because I kind of am trying to explain to Monica quite often and she gets frustrated with me because obviously she's afraid of men. She is 5 feet tall and 100 pounds.
I'm afraid of men.
But I try to explain to her, I'm like, I'm not trying to trump the female movement, but I'm also letting you know that all men are afraid of men too.
Yeah.
And Delia's 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah.
And at 19, he thinks, I must be prepared because this attack is imminent.
Yeah.
The reason I thought maybe that you and I would have some overlap in our experience is that for the first 12 years you lived in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I have to assume it was a little similar to my suburban Detroit playground experience where there was a lot of physical activity, right? You were unfortunately you were either prey or predator. There really there was not a lot for at least from my perception in my school. You were either like really trying to avoid these alpha asshole bullies
right.
or you were maybe even being one yourself to other boys.
Right.
And there was just a lot of jungle stuff.
But I remember consciously, like from a really early age, not like, and this is, I think, why I felt like a bit of an outcast, is because I remember I caught on very early. It was like, oh, if I make fun and if I'm funny, nobody's gonna fuck with me, because I remember thinking consciously, if I felt threatened, to be like, oh, I can get on his good side and just start making fun of him or people or whatever. And then they just wanted to be around me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Especially now, being an adult, realizing that when I was a kid, I was for sure using that to get out of situations.
Right.
I mean,
to de-escalate
I have
situations.
situations in my head where I remember doing that. And but you're a funny guy. Did you not do that, or?
Well, I also fought a lot.
Okay, because I didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. My comedy stuff, I think, came from being dyslexic and being just the worst student ever and getting taken to the special ed room once a day for an hour. And I felt so dumb that I needed to like have some quivers or arrows in my quiver, I guess. Yeah. Also middle child trying to diffuse a lot of stuff. But you're older. You have a younger brother.
Yeah, I have a younger brother,
Matt.
Yeah, he's 3.5 years younger, and my whole family was always making fun of each other. I come from, I think like I'm like the luckiest guy, man. Like I come from a great family. They're loving. All we do is make fun of each other, and that's how we show love. It's just so fun and great. And I see him every Sunday. And it's fucking amazing. And
you do the Italian dinner thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so
so
jealous.
fun.
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
When I'd watch Jersey Shore, even I'm like, God damn, it'd almost be worse being one of those guys just to have the Sunday dinner.
Yeah, totally. It's just great. And so it's always been that way. And my extended family, like it's very. I have an Uncle Vinny and shit like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's real. And they live in New Jersey still, and some are in New York, and it's just great. and they always, and every time I'm performing in the East Coast, they're always like, "Can we get 20 tickets?"
Yeah.
Sort of, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's gonna cost me $800, but all right,
20 tickets.
yeah. So, but it's just great, man, and so I really never felt like I was lacking anything at home, and that's a good thing. But I do remember being scared a lot in school and using humor to not be scared.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
And your dad was gainfully employed that whole time as a director?
Yeah.
And were you getting to go to sets and stuff?
Yeah.
You were?
Yeah, I remember he directed he said yes to direct the first version of 90210 because we loved it.
By the way, I fucking loved that show.
Yeah.
Donna Martin must graduate.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So we were like, you got to do it. He's like, all right, if they ask, I'll do it. And he did it. And we flew out to California and we met Luke Perry, Jason Priestley, all those guys. Yeah, it was awesome. I used to do my hair like Luke Perry.
Oh, sure.
In New Jersey. And then when we moved to LA, I was like, oh, I'm gonna kill with this hair. This is how Luke Perry had. And dude, everybody would just make fun of me in LA. As soon as I moved, everyone was like, what the fuck is wrong with your hair? And I was like, you guys don't know how LA is supposed to be. And then I remember when I met Luke Perry was like, hey man, cool hair. And I was like, see?
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he did. Probably my dad told him to say it or something. Now that I'm older, I realize that.
I mean, that's the dream compliment.
Yeah.
If you're styling your hair like another guy.
Yeah, and then he tells you nice hair.
Yes, I can't think of a better. I had one moment like that in my life, which is I did a movie with Burt Reynolds.
Wow.
Like 15 years ago. And at a certain point during the movie, he just pulled me aside and he goes, you remind me of a young version of myself.
No way.
And I was like, oh my God, that's what I'm trying to be, Bert. I'm trying to be a young version of you.
Sometimes you have to be like, okay, I got to just sit and think about this. That just happened for a while.
Yes.
I mean, that's amazing.
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, I'm grateful that it didn't blow over my head. Like I was very present for the fact that my idol just said I reminded him of a young version of himself.
That's
I was
amazing.
Floating on a pink cloud for
that's
like
fucking
3-4 days.
Still are.
I still am running on that.
That's funny.
Still fueling the tank.
Wow.
And how did you do in school? And I don't mean academically, although I am interested in that too. But did girls like you?
Well, like what age are we talking about? Like
junior high and high school?
Yeah. Well, okay, so
Because you have two very specific chapters in your life. I have to imagine 0 through 12 is much different than 12 through 18.
So 0 through 12, I was like, I think I was like, I wasn't cool guy or
You were
anything,
mid-rung.
But I was like, I was like, I was definitely, he's a funny guy.
Sure.
He's the funny cut up guy. But like I wasn't good at sports per se, but I was popular. I was like the kid who was funny, and I was 0 through 12, whatever the fuck that means, popular at that age. And then when I moved, it was like 7th grade.
That's a very rough year to move.
It was a tough one. Yeah, it was. And I had my hair. I thought, I was like, this is how you do it. I was like, forget it. I'm gonna kill it. And so I got to LA. I didn't kill it for like 7th grade, 8th grade were the 2 years in LA. It was different in New Jersey. It was 6th, 7th, 8th was middle school.
Same.
And in LA, it's 7th and 8th is middle school.
Oh, okay.
6th is considered elementary.
Okay.
So at least it was back then. I have no idea what it is now. So it was 7th and 8th. So I moved right when my parents were like, it's going to be great. It's when everybody's moving into the new big school.
Sure.
And it wasn't great.
No.
And so
it's the hardest probably.
Yeah, no, I know. It probably would have been good to move in the middle of elementary or whatever. But so I got there 7th
Let's take
grade.
it when the first year boys start getting boners in hair.
I know, yeah.
That'll be a good safe time.
Boners and hair under your arm. New school. Oh, your voice is
Tribalism,
going to be
really?
terrible. Your voice doesn't know what octave to use. So I was a real like in 7th grade. It was like my feet were size 13.
I was just going to say, were you tall and lanky as
but
well?
I was like lanky. But I was like, everyone looks like a fucking idiot when they're a teenager. Do you know what I mean? It's it's so cruel whatever God or whoever the fuck does it. So I was just like skinny and like wearing flannels and shit.
Okay, you went the like grunge route?
A kind of, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
But with Luke Perry's hairdo?
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of like a
I was trying to create a
mismatch.
hybrid of,
Sure, like a
a
preppy-
hybrid. I like to call it a hybrid.
A preppy grunge. Like a grunge kid that lived in Beverly Hills.
the two exact opposites. I wanted to
He wasn't preppy.
Straddle. Who?
Luke Perry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Well, so in my head he is preppy, but you're kind of right. He was like
He was like
He was James Dean.
motorcycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was James.
That's not preppy.
He was
That's-
James
I didn't-
Jason Priestley was
preppy. Yeah, I was in the middle. I was fucking
Okay.
Luke Perry, Jason Priestley.
right smack dab in the
Good
middle.
place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least that's what I thought. And, I remember.
Hold on. Before I just got to clarify
Okay.
really quick. The reason I'm bumping up against that is because he drove a Porsche, a convertible
Yeah.
Porsche, and
Luke
so
Perry?
he just
Jason Priestley.
Luke Perry.
Okay.
His
And then-
character drove like
got
a
it.
convertible,
Okay.
Yeah.
which is now like $1 million Porsche. So he drove this crazy expensive Porsche. So in my mind, I've got to file that into socias and greasers,
Right.
outsiders style.
Yeah.
And so he's just too rich for me to not be preppy. But that's why I'm hung up. It was the
Okay.
car and the wealth. I'm sorry.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
So back to 7th grade.
So when I was in 7th grade, I remember. I also, this is something else about me. Like I don't like dudes that are like. I don't like to be. I don't care about sports. I don't
machismo
I don't like
stuff.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not into that at all.
Right.
It's just too typical for me. It's boring.
It's intimidating.
I mean, I guess so. Yeah,
Your safety's
when I was-
generally
yeah.
at risk when you're around like 10 meatheads who are drinking.
Yeah,
You gotta
yeah, sure, yeah,
Stay
right,
alert.
yeah, right, yeah. So, my parents would always, my mom would always say like, you're fucking friends with the weirdos, like, and that's fine, but I have to fucking know their weirdo ass parents. You know what I mean? Like, I was always friends with like the foreign kid in 7th, 8th grade,
Okay, yeah.
like. And I was like, my mom was like, I can't talk to the parents. They're fucking Japanese. Like, I don't, And so, but I didn't care because it was like, they were like interesting to me, Like my friends, Idis Mattis, whose dad was so Russian, Morgan Doizaki. Just, they were great, man. They were fun. They were fun to be around. And so I would befriend those guys. And then, because of my,
By the way, can I just add, you must have been like James Dean in that group. If they're like,
That's
their parents
hilarious.
aren't speaking English and stuff, you must seem
but it was like we were all
like a renegade biker.
It was like that's hilarious. But we were all, on a fucking BMX. But we were all like our own kind of version of whatever the fuck we were. It was like we were all weird in our own way.
Did you define that with music at all? Were you like,
no.
I'm declaring I'm into? Okay,
No, I never cared about music.
okay.
That was another thing I didn't really care about, and I still don't really care about. It's the fucking sports music is like, all right, you like that the Browns? I don't give a shit.
Right.
You like that band? Cool. It's like that's just, and so
Such a unicorn. I love it.
well, I guess I appreciate it. But and then in 9th grade, it was high school. That was when I really laid into, I don't know how to, this sounds without being pompous, but like I'm funny. And like
Right.
And like
You're going to
I
bet
know
on
I'm
this.
funny.
You
yeah,
have the
exactly.
quality,
I'm gonna
and
bet
this is
on
the
it.
one I'm going to bet on.
Exactly.
You're not trying to get a sports scholarship.
100%.
You're not an artist.
100%. So 9th and 10th grade was all about that. It was all about like, okay, I'm going to be funny. I'm going to ride this fucking thing out, and it's going to be my thing. I know how to do it. I know how to make people laugh. I know how to get out of situations. I remember, bullies. I'd be like, I remember I had science class, and there was a bully in science class, and he would literally punch the smaller kids. And I was
Sure.
like, man, that fucking sucks. I felt bad for the smaller kids. And I thought, if I can be that guy's friend, I can convince him to not do that. And not only that, he won't punch me.
Sure. Well,
And-
first and foremost,
Yeah,
look out
right.
for
First
number
and-
one. You're
First and
gonna
foremost, he
avoid-
won't punch me.
Yeah.
Also, if I can, I'll save the others.
If the
but that's not that
time
important.
permitting, I'll work on these other kids.
Yeah. Time permitting, exactly. So I remember doing that,
And it worked.
And it worked. Yeah.
Part of the appeal to me was like, you have such little control over the world you're inhabiting
Yeah.
at that age. You don't have a lot of autonomy or, agency.
Yeah.
But I could control these interactions or these dynamics,
Yeah.
and I could control people's reactions or weirdly, and this sounds egomaniacal, but like their emotions. Like I can turn someone's mood around.
Yeah.
Like there was, to me, I think the most appealing part of it was like, oh, I have this weird control. I can take the reins of this situation and make it one experience for everyone. And I think in a environment where I felt very out of control, that somehow was like, oh, I can find purchase.
Gotcha.
There, I liked that.
And you did that mainly with humor. Or you're saying
humor,
yeah.
To me, at least,
That's funny. I winning them over is. I used to go into my parents' bedroom late at night and be like, I'm going to make them laugh. And I would walk in and they'd be like, no, we got to go to bed. We're tired. And I remember thinking, like, if I could just make them go from that to laughing, then like I won them over. I did it. You know what I mean? And I would do that.
Well, it's a superpower.
Yeah. So I would do that and I would wait till they would laugh and they'd be like, okay, good night, folks. Good night, folks. It was like that.
Go on.
That's what I do now for a fucking living. So it's like, but yeah, it's about, I mean, dude, it's just, I'm not going to be the fucking strongest guy. I'm not going to be the best at soccer or whatever the fuck. But in a class, I think I'll be the funniest, I mean, I think that thought, but it's not even that you will be the funniest, but you have to think you will be.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Now, did you have, so what's weird is that, like, so I was having that experience, but I was in Michigan. So the only outlet I could imagine even possible was that I could maybe start doing stand-up. But I was just terrified to do stand-up.
Well, yeah, of course.
It literally, I said, I must do this, but I'm too afraid to do it here. So if I move all the way to California, I'll have no choice but to do it. And then when I got here, still too afraid, and I ended up doing sketch comedy and improv. It wasn't until like 10 years later, I was already working as an actor. I was like, you still must do this. You're a fucking coward if you don't.
Yeah.
So you wanted to do it, but it still took, or did you want to do that? Did you even recognize?
So I wanted to be a stand-up comedian ever since I can remember.
Like, would you watch Comedy Central back when they would show stand-ups? Yes.
Yeah. My dad showed it to me too at an early age, and I was like, that's the fucking coolest thing, is to just show up with nothing and just be like, okay, so this is what I do.
I'm going to use my voice to entertain
no
the fuck
guitar, no documents, no nothing. That's your job. You show up with nothing and you can just make people laugh and get paid for that. And I always tell this story, but my dad said he thinks he knows the moment where I thought I wanted to be a comedian. He said I was playing with my toys. He was watching this Jerry Lewis movie, and Jerry Lewis was acting like a fool on his movies, as he did, And I stopped playing with my toys, and I looked at the movie, and I said, and my dad clocked me looking at the movie, and I said, "Hey, Dad," I said, "this guy on the screen, what he's doing right there, that's his job?" And my dad said, "Yeah," and I said, "Huh," and he said, I said, "So he like makes money doing that?" And my dad said, yeah, as a matter of fact, he makes a lot of money. And then my dad said, I went like this, huh? And he said, that's the moment he thought that I decided, oh, that's what I want to make money doing when I get older, is to just fucking be silly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to do it at an early age. And then I was out here, we moved out here when I was 12, and I was like, let me just try acting first because it's not as scary,
right?
Failing.
That's what I was getting at, is that you first chose the acting lane.
Yes. So you start to, I was like, well, and I didn't think about how. Look, getting into stand-up is hard no matter what. It's hard as an unknown. It's also hard if you're already known, because people are like, oh yeah, but this guy's an actor. You know what I mean? Like your peers are like, well, I've been doing this for 10 years. Why is he's going to come in here and do it? And so
I very much felt that when I started it.
Exactly, yeah.
But it might have just been in my own head.
Maybe.
I was like, they're all thinking, what the fuck's this guy doing?
Yeah, maybe not. But it actually doesn't even matter if they're thinking it or not, if you are. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so I remember trying to do the acting thing and writing, and I sold a script, and it never got made.
That's bonkers.
I sold it to Trigger Street, Kevin Spacey's old company,
really?
I guess it now.
At what age?
21. It was a movie about kids in New Jersey, and yeah, it was awesome.
Now, in retrospect, do you think he was just like Harvey Weinsteining you?
Oh, I'll tell you what. I don't think so, because I was not like, I never looked like the fucking young boyish kid. I was.
Well, he
like,
might have liked that.
Maybe. I always looked like I was supposed to be 35. I feel like.
But maybe he wanted to, venture out.
Maybe
Luke Perry territory.
Sure.
So anyway,
that's incredible though. At 21 to sell a screenplay, you had a writing agent at that time?
I did, because I I was already acting and stuff.
Right, because you in high school were on like some medical drama,
I was
right?
on some stuff. I was on Chicago Hope, which my dad did do.
Okay, but can I ask, in high school, what is it like to like make several $1,000s in a week? Were you pumped on that?
I mean, I did it like twice, so it wasn't
Still?
like, it was honestly, it felt kind of weird, to be honest, because
did.
I didn't want people to think I thought of myself a certain way. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think that's the New Jersey in you, like always on high alert that you'll come off as like
maybe
too big for your own britches?
Maybe that is a very New Jersey.
It's so
thing.
funny. Yeah. Well, it's a Boston thing. I think on some level it's
East-
Detroit.
sure.
Like, you don't get too big for yourself.
Yeah.
But what's funny is it denies you of ever enjoying
I
like
know.
any of the things that are spectacular
Never
in your
happy.
life.
Never happy. Yeah.
Because it's so, maybe even in retrospect you can help understand. But certainly from like Monica and I's perspective, me in Detroit, her in Atlanta, the notion of being in high school and being like on television and then making like thousands of dollars and stuff and being in a union, like what an incredible, unique.
It was cool. Yeah. I went to, and it was cool. And then I did it a few times, and then I tried to go to college.
You went to NYU.
Yeah, for a year. You really did your homework, huh?
I
And
didn't even memorize it. I'm impressed. You didn't even have a paper
you
in
remember
front
stuff
of you.
I forgot. So
I
so I
bet
went
you were there the exact time my wife was there because you were born in 1980.
Yep.
She was born in 1980.
Oh, really?
And she was at Tisch.
Me too.
In whatever
at the-
year that would have been.
Okay. Yeah. 98, 98, 99. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Did you guys fuck?
No.
Yeah,
I would remember
yes,
that.
What if you forgot? What if when you bump
if
into
you
Belle,
both
she's like, you were so good in bed? Wouldn't that be the most heartbreaking thing to have forgotten that you made love to someone?
She would forget too. The bad memories together. You probably did.
Nah. So,
I'm glad we went there. Okay, so you don't think you made love to my wife, but you
No.
were there the same year.
well, I don't do drugs, so I know I didn't.
Which is another thing
Yeah.
about you that I want to explore.
Yeah.
But you went to NYU and you, after a year, you're like, I don't like this. Did you not like living in New York or did you not like going to school?
Dude, I didn't like school, man.
Okay.
I never liked school. I never liked high school. I never liked any
How
school.
the fuck do you even get into NYU?
know, it's
if
hard
you-
to get into.
Yeah. You somehow did
I
good in
didn't
school,
really
even
do
though-
that well in school. I did an audition for it, and I mean, maybe that helped. I don't know. I mean, I couldn't have been that fucking good.
Right.
You know, it was just like, I don't know. I think my interview went really well or something.
Interesting.
I don't know. I had like a 3.2, 3.3 average.
Good.
It's good-ish,
good,
but
yeah.
it's it's NYU. I don't know. I really don't know. I got in somehow, and then I just hated it.
Well, it goes to show that they did make a mistake. They should let people in with much better grades because they'll probably stick around.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
100%.
yeah. This does prove the rule.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
there's
Hey,
a
they were
reason.
right. Yeah, or they were wrong. Rather, they were right before me. And so I dropped out, and I still always wanted to do stand up, but I was like, I'll do that. It's too scary. I'll do
It's
that
just
later.
too scary, right?
And I had the script that I wrote after NYU. I was like, maybe that'll get made. It didn't get made. It was like for 3 years. I was like, I was gonna get. You know how it is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
I've sold so many shows that have never been made. It's
yeah, so it's like okay, I would still act here and there, and then kind of at like a loss. I was like 25, and I was like, I'm never. What am I gonna? I got.
Can I just ask?
Yeah.
Because you go to NYU at 18, so there's 7 years
Yeah.
where you're kind of adrift.
Yeah.
Are you depressed in that period?
Yeah, for sure.
That's rough, right?
100%,
At that age of your life, because
Yeah.
I too.
Yeah.
I mean, I was here, but I was
Figuring it
not
out.
working.
Yeah.
And it's hard, right?
Yeah, it sucked, dude. Especially because I don't know how it is for you, but like my friends were working. I was not working, dude. Like not working, trying. I was.
And you didn't have the aid of drink or drugs.
No, yeah, I was just fucking sitting.
Would you comfort yourself with ladies?
No,
You'd want it.
no.
You're just feeling the brunt of that.
Yep.
I can't imagine. I'm just too much of a sissy.
Yeah.
I would have had to have medicated
I
myself.
mean, but I was probably too much of a sissy in that way because I was just too scared to try anything. Do you know what I mean? So I would just be depressed. I would literally write all day. I would write all day for hours and hours and hours. I would sit at my computer and love it. You know?
Me too,
Yeah.
because I could control that.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
need
yeah.
someone to call and say you're allowed to write.
Right.
You needed someone to
Yeah,
call and say you're
100%.
allowed to act.
Right. So then kind of for 6 years, it would be that. I would be getting gigs here and there. I was doing voice work stuff that, kept me afloat-ish. And then...
Can we just point out, though, the irony of fear of failure?
Yeah,
Because
I
the
know.
fear we had was like, it's just too scary to do stand up. And then
So you're not
when
gonna
you
see-
play it all through,
succeed
it's like,
not doing it.
So the worst case scenario is you do it and you're terrible,
Yeah.
and then you're in the scenario you've already put yourself in. So
Yeah.
it's like a zero risk proposition when you really think about
I
it.
know.
If anyone that's listening who's afraid to do something,
Yeah, you got to do it.
the outcome when you
gotta
don't
do
is the thing you're fearing will happen. So
Yeah.
it's like you're ensuring that'll happen. So what did lead to you eventually getting on a stage?
So-
what did it take?
So I went with a buddy when I was 23. I did an open mic at the Ha Cafe in North Hollywood, and it was just going to be like a fun thing. We're like, all right, well, let's do it. We've always both wanted to do it. So I did it, and it went bad.
Sure.
And I was like, I'll end up doing it again, but I didn't do it for 2 years. And then at 25, I thought, okay, I have to start. I didn't make it, quote unquote, yet. So I have to just start doing stand-up now. So I remember in December 2004, I thought, that's my New Year's resolution, is to just do stand-up once a week at least.
This is so funny.
In
That's how I ended up doing
2005.
it too. It was a New
Really?
Year's resolution.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's cool. So in 2005, January 1st, obviously I didn't go on stage. It was a holiday. January 2nd, I went to the, because there's just
gotta
not,
honor
it's
the
not gonna-
holiday. Yeah.
you gotta honor the holiday. So January 2nd,
My
I was
birthday.
like, this is the day. Is it? Okay.
Uh-huh.
So I was like,
For
it's Dax's birthday. I was like, it's
birthday.
Dax's birthday. I should do something. I didn't honor that holiday and not go on stage. And I said, I'm going to find an open mic. I did. I went to Ha Cafe again, which is 2 years later now. And I signed up. I got on stage and it went, badly, but manageable. And I thought, before that I was like once a week. And then January 3rd, I was like, oh, I'll do it again. And then I did it every single day, honestly, until today. And the string of amount of times I haven't been on stage consecutively is absolutely no more than 10 days.
Since 2004?
Yeah. 2005.
Get out of here.
Yep.
So for 13 years, you've been on a stage every day.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Work probably precludes you at times
Yeah.
from being there.
But 10 never been more than 10 days.
And did you
consecutively?
were you trying on different personas throughout that process?
Yeah, I mean,
Because you really it takes a lot of work to learn to
Totally.
be you.
100%. Yeah, I started with a guy that had never. I had done like theater and shit. I started with a guy that had never been on stage, and I realized I had a leg up because of that.
Sure.
Because I just knew how to be on stage. But that's another thing about like, some of these phenoms like Chappelle or the guys who start at 16 that just know who they are immediately, kind of. So I wasn't like that, but I think that when I started at 25, I kind of already generally knew who I was ish. I mean, still young, but not 16. Right. So that helped in me figuring out my persona because I was like, oh, I'm already kind of this guy.
Right.
In my person. And so then, but it was still hard. I mean, I was still figuring it out. I mean, I was not good by any means, but I kind of had a grasp of who I was. So that helped. So that's an advantage of starting a little bit later. I would just go on stage every day. I would do multiple open mics a night. I mean, I did 430 shows one year. Like,
Oh wow.
yeah,
Wow.
if I like something, I like it. you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably a good thing you didn't drink. It sounds like you
Yeah.
were very
Well, the
obsessive
nightlife, it would have been. Oh,
personality.
yeah, 100%. Oh, I like 3 years ago, I realized I was like, oh man, there's no way I wouldn't have fucking killed myself doing drugs. When I did jujitsu, I did it fucking 9 times a week. I was like, if I find something I like, I never stop. It's just
Yeah.
because I don't like many things. You know?
And are you habitual about how you eat at restaurants?
Oh, yeah,
You go to like the
100%.
exact same 6 restaurants
Yeah.
and get the same item and everything?
Yeah, absolutely.
I do too. My friend Ethan, I think, broke it down for me. I don't even think I realized why I do the
Yeah.
things I do. But he said he's sober, but he got addicted to ibuprofen and Diet Coke. And he realized that like at the year mark of eating all this Motrin and drinking Diet Coke, he goes, oh my God, you know what happened was I took an ibuprofen, can't even say that word,
Ibuprofen.
Profen, and I had a Diet Coke, and for whatever reason, probably completely unrelated to those two things, I felt great.
Yeah.
I had a moment where I felt great, and then I connected it to these two
Yeah.
things I had taken, and then just for the next year, I'm chasing that feeling of feeling great.
That's a real addict, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'm that way with food. Like I have a great meal at some point, and I will keep eating that meal long after it no longer tastes good. Just
yeah, me too. But also when people are like, yeah, but try something different. What if you like it better? I'm like, you're fucking crazy. I know what I like.
And the risk is too high. If I'm comparing like knowing I'm going to hit a 7 versus I might hit a 3, I'm just terrified of that.
Yeah.
The pain of having that salmon roll. I don't want to try that. I know the spicy tuna will work.
Right.
So when do things start clicking? Like where you start making a living?
So
how many years after starting?
I got a show on TBS. I was like the 7th lead called Glory Days, and that
lasted a season.
Yes.
Right?
So that was 2008. So that's when I started. A little bit before that, I would tour a little bit, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I remember I also I did a show for Showtime, like a set on Showtime. It was like 2008. And I don't think things went viral back then, but for some reason people would come see me from that.
Uh-huh.
And so I had not a following, but like I was like, some people like come to see me, so that's kind of cool. And
sure.
And then Glory Days was not as it didn't last beyond 8 or 9 or 10 episodes, but then people like kind of then people started being like, oh, who's that guy? I'll go see him do stand up. And then so after that, then the year right after that, I got Whitney.
Isn't it interesting? These things can all like fuel one another.
Yeah. But it all helps.
I remember doing, I was on Chelsea Handler's show, and I was talking to her like, off camera. And I said, like, what are you going to do this weekend?
Right.
She's like, oh, I'm going to go do 4 shows.
Yeah.
And then I just started kind of doing reverse math, right?
Yeah.
And then I started thinking, oh, she was a stand-up before, but I can't imagine she had the
right.
She couldn't have booked arenas 4 times in one weekend, so that show ended up weirdly fueling that thing, even though that thing got her that thing. And then they weirdly just started becoming flubber.
Yeah.
They gain momentum somehow.
Yeah. And of course I was, never as, she was enormous. I'm never big as her, but like, like the stuff online, people, like I had a special that came out and then a bit went viral on YouTube from that. And then because of that, and then Whitney, and then social media, I liked using that.
Yeah, you had 2 million followers on Vine at one point.
So all that stuff. And I remember when Vine became popular, I was like, I really want to push that people know I'm not just this asshole making Vines. I want them to know I'm a comedian.
Right.
So I would like shoot stuff when I was on stage. Mm-hmm. And I think that helped, just, so people just kind of, it's about awareness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
So do you? How many days a year are you on the road currently?
So now, I'm not on a show, so I try to do every other weekend, which would be like 3 or 4 cities a week. When I leave, I'll do 3 or 4 cities. I'll do one night Thursday, then I'll go to like this weekend. I'm going to I got Wednesday in Miami, Thursday West Palm Beach, Friday Jacksonville, and then Atlanta on Saturday.
Isn't it the most incredible?
It's really, 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 really awesome. And I feel really fortunate. I feel really lucky. I know I've worked hard, but I just feel really fortunate and lucky to be in the position I'm in. And I always want to do the best I can, man, for people, because I know that they work hard for their money, and the fact that they'll spend some of it to come see me is just that's amazing, man. That really is amazing.
So how many a year would you say? How many dates do you do?
Okay, so I just put up my tour now.
Okay. Where can people find your tour?
ChrisDelia.com,
Okay.
And so
but your name is spelled so stupid. I hate these Italian names.
I know. Well, you can't use apostrophes in the fucking website. So
well,
it's
there
just
you go.
Chris Delia, Delia.
I love Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah.
He's a good friend of mine, and
his name?
I couldn't like him more. Fuck his name.
Yeah.
Even when I text him,
Dude,
when I text him, I can't figure it out.
I said this on Rogan, but I used to say to my dad, like, Dad, I fucking, our last name sucks. Like, it's got the apostrophe. Like, can we remove it? And he was like, no.
Right.
And
I
I
always
was like,
put an equal sign in there or a fucking plus sign.
At least be interesting and different, And he was like, nah. You know what your fucking grandfather would think, And he was like, and I was like, well, it sucks though. And he was like, you're gonna like it when you get older. But I remember asking him. I remember saying, I want to change my name. And he was like, what the fuck would you even change it to? And I was like, I want to change my name to Damian Monroe. and he was like, why? And I was like, it just sounded like fucking cool.
Yeah.
And I can't talk about when you met me, you were ready to not like me. Imagine if my name was fucking Damian Monroe.
I couldn't have got past that.
Yeah,
I
no.
couldn't have got past that.
That's horrible. And so now everyone on I can always tell a Rogan fan because they're like Damian Monroe.
Do you get on with other comedians, generally speaking?
Yeah.
Because I have to imagine, like, if we look at Dane Cook, so like I happen to do a movie with Dane Cook at the height of his powers, right? And yet the vitriol and rage against this guy was I've never ever been a part of something where, like, as I would move through town and I'd bump into people that, aren't you doing a movie with Dane Cook? And they would just kind of unleash all these things.
Really?
They hated him. They hated Dane Cook. All of my kind of comedy circle of comedic actors, writers, whatever.
Really?
They couldn't stand him. I can tell you, I did a lot of thinking about this.
Yeah.
And I came to a conclusion. So
because I wasn't a comedian back then, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I don't know how people felt about him that way.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you didn't have any feeling on him.
Yeah. I mean, no.
Okay. So what I did notice immediately was this reaction to him is very disproportionate to just not liking someone's jokes. Right.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I just got very curious, like, what is going on? What is so triggering about Dane Cook to this group of people I'm interacting
Right.
with? And I think my conclusion at the end of the day, there was a couple elements. One is just, I think we all comedians generally lack some self-confidence.
Sure.
And here was a guy that was like, no, I made my own show. It's called Tourgasm. I
Right.
filmed it all on my own and paid for it. And then I went to HBO and I just said, here's the show. Do you want to buy it?
Yeah.
And I don't think any of us could have imagined having that level of confidence, right?
Gotcha.
And I think he was also a movement. Dane Cook
was definitely a movement.
He was a movement. And like young people really connected with him
Yeah.
in some way that transcended comedy.
People went to go see him not because they liked stand up.
100%.
Yeah.
They liked
Yeah.
him. He was like being into a band.
Right.
And he said something about you. If you were a Dane Cook fan, it was a kind of a declaration of who you were.
Yeah.
And so I get all that, and that's all interesting kind of sociological stuff. Again, not a reason to hate somebody,
No.
because there were other movements.
Of course.
But I think what it boiled down to, well, this is just my armchair assessment of it, is that people were very envious of his self-confidence, or at least what appeared to be his self-confidence. Also, there was a secondary thing, and I've gotten this where I've gotten in great shape for things.
Yeah.
And other comedian friends of mine are like, pull me on the side and be like, you can't do that.
Yeah,
You can't be in good shape.
yeah.
There's just like these weird rules, right? And so one of
Yeah.
them is kind of, you can't be cool.
Yeah.
Now, even though Dane Cook wasn't my version of cool,
Yeah,
he
he was
definitely
cool.
was
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Like I guess he wore leather jackets and stuff, and like the people that saw him thought he was kind of a style icon and all
Right.
these different things. And so he was both very confident and he was breaking some rule. And so I have to imagine that you must trigger some people, because you too, you're not going, oh, I'm a fucking geek nerd.
Yeah.
You're kind of owning the level of swagger you have. And does that kind of trigger people?
I think the times have changed. It's a little different now.
It is.
Yeah. Being the first guy that, well, not that he was the first guy, but I mean, like,
Kind of.
white
guy.
I guess you look at Andrew Dice Clay, but I mean, that's
But he was playing such a character.
True.
I always defend him on here as going like that. Everyone
That's
knows
true.
that was a character.
that is true. Yeah.
I can't think of the stand-up comedian that I watched and I was like, oh, when he walks off stage, he's fucking all these women. Like that's just not generally what I'm associating with a stand-up. But when you'd watch Dane, you're like, oh, the girls in the audience, like they're hot for him.
Stay tuned for more Armchair Expert, if you dare.
Yeah, but there's comedians like that now. There's a bunch, right? Like, here's the thing. There are comedians. I don't think comedian is necessarily, at least it didn't used to be an alpha thing, but it's almost like I wasn't good at all the other stuff. This is what I'm an alpha
Yeah,
at.
this is my niche.
Do you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
But now, I mean, look at Joe Rogan. Look at guys
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's just like,
He couldn't be
he's
more
the alpha.
Yeah.
You know?
Uh-huh.
There's
He never quit jujitsu.
right. I
like
know.
you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like it's the times. I just think the time's different.
Yeah, and
it's
probably
changed.
I would imagine that's been aided by the fact that there used to be a singular outlet. Like you and I when we were growing up, if it's Comedy Central didn't air that,
Right.
we couldn't see it. I couldn't
Right.
find someone's YouTube
Yeah.
page, couldn't find their Vine account.
Right.
But now there's so many outlets and they can attract different
Yeah.
styles and
You got to use it all. But it's also you're either going to be. I mean, people are. So okay, so it's either that or you're the outcast. That's the obvious outcast that doesn't care about style. That's the whatever you want to call it, fat ball guy that does stand up and oh yeah, girls don't like me. And it's like they don't like that guy either,
right
for a different reason.
Sure,
they don't want to be
sure.
around that guy. So
Yeah.
so now he's got to use jokes to get fucking. That's the same thing I'm doing. It's
Yes.
just in a different way.
Yes.
You know, and so yeah.
Now, can you tell me why you decided to never drink?
I can only say this, and this is how I've been my whole life about everything. I don't ever do anything big like a lifestyle choice until I regret that I haven't done it.
Mm-hmm.
So I lost my virginity at 19, and it was because I regretted that I didn't have sex the last time I was.
Presented the
Yes.
opportunity.
So now I know, okay, I want to have sex.
Mm-hmm.
And I never felt that way with drinking. I just never felt like I missed out. I never felt, because I've never drank.
Right.
I never did drugs. And it's because I never felt like, that one time would have been fun drinking or one time would have been fun
Yeah.
doing whatever.
Well, maybe if you spent more time with me,
Yeah.
I could convince you to do at least mushrooms.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to start with mushrooms.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I had to say, like, on my deathbed, they're going to take away every memory you have except for one of these, I would keep the mushrooms one.
Nice.
Yeah, I wouldn't keep like the drunk or the
Okay.
on coke or any of those things.
No,
I
yeah.
go like, yeah, mushrooms was like traveling to another planet, trying on a whole different brain. Now, what is your relationship with women?
It's been different my whole life. Like when I was 20, I had a girlfriend that I thought I was going to marry, and I lost my virginity to her. She broke up with me, met another girl that was older. I had a relationship with her. I broke up with her.
What kind of age gap are we talking?
I was 21. She was 27.
Oh, okay,
28.
great.
So yeah.
That's kind of hot. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so then I met the girl that I got married to when I was 26. Dated for 2 years.
Did you
married
meet
for 2
working?
years. We met. Our families knew each other.
Oh, okay.
So I knew her from some.
She's a La Cañana.
Yes.
Okay.
And-
You were married, what, 6 years or something?
No, I was married for 2 years,
Oh, okay.
but dated 2 years before that.
Oh, okay.
But maybe like IMDb's wrong or something like that.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean.
And when you break up with somebody, is it generally amicable, or do you generally not talk to the person again?
I'm really good at. I'm cool with staying friends, but I don't ever go back.
Right,
I don't.
right.
I'm good at breaking up and then never being with them again. Like,
Same.
yeah.
Yeah. I can be great friends, and then for whatever reason,
Yeah.
once I unplug that thing, I
Yeah.
don't ever see them as a
Yeah,
sexual
I don't know
being
what that
again.
is actually.
Yeah, they become
I've
my
often-
sister or something.
Yeah, I've often wondered what that is because you can't just shut something off, but it feels like it is.
Yeah, it's just weird. Like when you break up, and then for me personally, it's like once you break up, and it's the hardest thing in the world to do. It's so painful.
It sucks.
It
fucking is so. Yeah,
there's nothing worse. And so the notion of ever like having sex with them and opening up that emotional wound again,
Yeah.
and potentially going through, like when I go through something that painful,
Right,
there's just
right.
no
Yeah,
sex is
yeah.
good enough for me to like
Agreed.
reopen that
Agreed.
emotional
Agreed.
wound.
Because I don't. Yeah, that's just. I mean, the breakups I've had have just they just suck. And are you the kind of guy? Because sometimes I have been this guy where I'm like, I'm just gonna be so boring and complacent that she's gonna want to break up with me.
Yeah, this is a common technique with
It
guys.
is. I know it's
Yeah.
so bad.
They
but I've
they
done
basically
that.
try to force the other person to
Blah.
start hating them.
Awful.
Yeah, I've never taken that route.
Yeah.
I also am not the type of person that can be in something much after the moment I realize I can't
See,
continue.
I often am like, I committed to this. Let's try to make it work. And even if I know it's a bad idea, I'm like, I gotta try. I don't know what that fuck that is. But I'm sure a lot of it is fear based to be without them. But
well, I kind of go like, I now realize I'm not going to be with this person going forward, and that's going to be impossible to tell them. I can't also now add on to it like 2 months of me being a shithead.
Yeah.
All to get to that. But I get it. I understand the strategy.
But how do you realize it?
For me, I don't know
saying?
why, but for me, it's such an obvious feeling in my body of like, oh, this isn't going to go the distance. I don't know. I feel like I can tell when work, like therapy will help or all these kind of things will help. But I basically had 3 really long-term relationships, and I felt like I knew very clearly when the previous 2 were over that they were just over. But there's nothing quite as terrible as that experience. And so having left that marriage, I assume like when you first get divorced, it's all the other person's fault for a year.
I try to be as self-reflective as I can, but it's also hard because like you don't want to own up to that shit. And like, I don't want to be the bad guy. And I think I am the bad guy sometimes. And,
Sure.
And that's hard to swallow.
By the way, we all are.
I know.
No one's in a relationship with themselves. It's never like one-sided in the way we'd love to paint it.
Yeah.
But it's hard. The reason you don't want to admit it is because once you now acknowledge it, it requires that you make some effort to change it in the future, right?
And that's hard as fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, like to not be the way you have been is just too hard.
To stop using a system that's yielded results in general is kind of hard.
Yeah.
So what do you think your character defects are in relationships?
Well, first of all, I'm selfish.
Sure. We all are.
Yeah. So that's a big one.
You're also married to your career,
Yes,
I'm sure.
I know. That's a rough one.
By the way, I've yet to speak to a stand-up.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Because it's such a psychotic endeavor.
Yeah.
It really requires to succeed
I know.
this really disproportionate valuation of it.
Yeah.
To really do the ugly business you have to do to get good at it, you have to have a kind of unhealthy, just out of the gates.
Yeah.
It almost requires it. It's almost like a president. A president has to be a narcissist. Who the fuck would think
that? I've thought that. Yeah, I mean that has to be
right. I always kind of like I don't excuse any of Clinton's behavior. When people are shocked that like he got a blowjob in the White House, I go, well, no. Here's a guy who his whole life it regularly was proven that the rules that apply to everyone else don't apply to him. That's how you end up the president.
Yeah.
So a lot of bad data.
100%. You think you're going to be the president? Yeah, you would do that.
Yes, you'd probably do anything.
I would never think I was going to be the president, and I got a big ego.
Yeah, they wouldn't even let me be the president of a mid-sized company.
Right? Yeah, yeah. I'm barely the president of my own fucking podcast. My producer does most of it. So, I don't know. So I'm very selfish, and I think I say stuff to kind of make the situation okay when it's not okay. Do you know what I'm saying? Whatever that is. Like I tell people what they want to hear, I think sometimes.
Right.
Which I don't, and at least I have in the past. And I try not to do that. But that goes back to being selfish.
I guess, can you ever imagine being with somebody where the choice was, for some weird reason, God comes down. There's a God first. You got to accept that. And then he comes down. He says, you get to keep one of 2 things, this lady or your stand-up career.
That's a fucking, wow, that's
pretty
really
gnarly, right?
hard, yeah.
Can I just tell you, just recently for me, and I'm 5 years older than you, Kristen was the first person in a few years in where I actually, that choice was presented to me and I chose her.
Really?
Which blew my mind.
But how does that choice even happen?
Because I got offered parenthood. I hadn't acted in a long time.
Right.
No one was offering me anything.
Right.
And they said, this show shoots in Philadelphia.
Oh.
And I said, there's no way I can be in this relationship and move to Philadelphia.
Right.
And I turned that show down.
Wow.
Which, by the way, is certainly the first time in my life I would have ever done that.
Weren't you in that?
In Parenthood?
Yeah.
Yes. They ended up moving it. Not because of me per se, but
you
I think
chose,
a couple of different
Yeah.
actors
Wow.
probably were like, I would do it, but I won't do it in Philadelphia. And, but I said no. I said, I'm not going to do it. And I very much wanted to be on that show.
Wow, really?
And I very much liked the idea of having like a weird separate life in Philadelphia with some weird apartment where I was like,
Yeah, used to be a guy.
Yeah.
Be an idiot.
Yeah.
Just fucking, not be single, but kind of have that mentality where you're like, fuck it, I'm on my own. You know what I mean?
Yes. It was very appealing. I couldn't believe I was doing it.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, this is the one relationship that seems to, it's 11 years in. But by the way, what's so ironic is you make a decision like that, and then weirdly you're rewarded. Like then it comes back to LA.
Right.
But having the willingness to make the decision, and then somehow, of course, you'll never have to make that decision. But just knowing that you would make that.
Yeah. So I feel accomplished already. You know,
It helps.
So
right?
yeah, it does help. Yeah. So I don't know if that's fair, but like. I want to have a family.
To me, can I just say, so I don't want to act like I'm a god because I'm not. I knew kids was something I was not going to miss out on this trip through Planned
The whole time?
Yes.
Because I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I knew it then, and I was 34.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I was 34, and my girlfriend was 29. So I was doing the math going, there's two scenarios now. You either make it work with this one.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be the guy who's 40 dating a 29-year-old, and I did not want to be that guy.
Yeah.
So I will say it
don't either.
was definitely helped by the fact that like I was able to value this idea I was going to have kids over work.
Gotcha. But that's where I am now, I think, because I think I want to have a family.
Yes.
And I've got this girl, and I like that. I like that I've done what I've done, and I feel okay now at 38, kind of moving into that life. And I don't need to do it fucking tomorrow, but if and when that builds to that, then I'm happy.
I can tell you with ultimate sincerity, and I'm nothing if not truthful, the family part is everything you wanted the career thing to feel like, and it just didn't. Like
Really?
for certain, if I had to miss one of these two things, I would definitely have missed the show business career. It is so, for me, so fulfilling and so purpose giving and so right sizing of my own desires. It's everything I wanted the other thing to be.
So that's nice to hear because, even also being a comic, you hear all the jokes about how like, it fucking sucks, this and that. And it's like, but even not as a comic, you hear like, oh, these kids, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I always felt like I wasn't sure if that was real or, and I'm obviously you have your hands full, and that's fine. But I feel like I want that, and I'm gonna do that, and so I hope that it's fucking what you're saying. Do you know what I mean?
I'm quite confident it will be because I got to say someone, and I'll just speak for myself, someone that was so self-obsessed enough to undertake this job and to be so driven to, as you say, write 8 hours a day and do all the things that I was willing to do to fulfill this selfish goal. The result for me of being selfish, I know what the result is. I know how it feels. And it's all counterintuitive. It's so counterintuitive. It's why in AA you have to do service for other people. It's not really to help that person. It's that when you're helping that person, it's really hard to obsess about yourself. And the freedom from obsessing about yourself is euphoric if you can get to it. So for me personally, just having two people in my life that I'm more concerned about than I am myself has been crazy liberating and super counterintuitive. Because really, my quickest path to feeling unhappy is really just assessing what Dax needs. As soon as I'm starting to think about what Dax needs or I need to buy or how much money I need to make that year, all those things I naturally will obsess about, I don't feel better from them. But weirdly, when I'm like being of service to my kids in the morning, it's all service. It's like, I don't want to wake up when they wake up, but I got to. So I guess it's all under how, I could bitch about it and it's all how I'm perceiving it. But for me, I really cherish stepping outside of my own selfish desires at all time. And I feel way better as a person. And it feels more sustainable to be worried about two people ahead of myself.
And is it something, and your wife always wanted kids?
Interestingly, she did always want kids,
Yeah.
but when we had them, we were like literally, she was probably 49% wanted them.
Okay.
And I was probably 50.
Yeah.
And then I talked to the ex-girlfriend that I was with for 9 years. She had one.
Right.
And she said, trust me, I'm as selfish as
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Do this.
Yeah.
Do not miss it. And that tipped it for me.
Okay.
And then I kind of became the engine a little
Gotcha.
bit with Belle.
Okay.
Of course, now she's probably even more into being a parent
Right.
than I am. But
Right.
yeah,
And did you think she would be a good mom from jump?
1,000%.
Yeah.
What's funny is I have all these complaints about her. There's things that drive me nuts about her, and we're pretty much opposites. But at no point in any of that, on the road to having kids, I always was like, this woman would be a spectacular mother.
Because that's important. That's important. That's important for me at least. Because I've been with girls where I thought, oh, we won't have kids. That'll be okay.
Yeah.
And I've been with girls where like, oh, she'd be a good mom. The girl I'm with now, I'd be like, oh, she'd be a great mom. So it's like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, as your priorities shift, it's like you start moving things up the ladder.
And then as you get older, you're like, okay, I'm with a girl that would be a great mom. I feel like I could be a dad to our family.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
I've done stuff in my career. I don't have to fucking sacrifice as much as I would have when I was 20.
Yes.
Right? I mean, it's still a sacrifice if you're going to do the career and be a
Yeah, when
dad.
you're younger, you're kind of picking a partner as like, who would be the most fun on a vacation? Like, what girl would I most want to be in Hawaii with?
100%.
And that's just not,
Yeah.
ultimately. Well, so Chris, your podcast is called Congratulations with Chris D'Elia.
Mm-hmm.
And then Monica, you'll like this. He calls his followers cult. They think he thinks they're in a
Yeah.
cult.
Oh, I do like that.
You like that? You like cults?
Yeah, and I think he is a cult leader too.
I
And he
hate when she
refuses to
says
admit
that.
it.
You could be.
hate it.
You,
Yeah.
you got to be selfish and charismatic to be a cult leader.
Yeah.
And
Fits the bill.
The only thing, because I'm now listening to this amazing podcast, I cannot recommend it enough. Let me look it up.
Uncover Nexium.
Uncover Nexium. Have you heard of this one?
No, what's that?
It's about a
gotta
woman
write it
left
down.
Nexium. Nexium's this big, kind of like a landmark or
for
Est.
Sure.
But this one's called ASP, was their thing.
Asp?
ASP.
Okay.
The-
Good anagram.
It evolved
Whatever you call
into
it.
Then it
an
turned-
element of it was a sex cult.
Oh,
And
really? See, that's what I'm
the
trying
woman
to get at.
from the woman from Smallville.
Trying to turn
From
your cult
podcast to
into-
sex cult. The
It's
woman
an
from
easy
Smallville?
transition as I
Yeah.
listen to this. She got very high up in it, and she has been indicted on sex trafficking and stuff.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yes, it's
Oh, okay, I'll look this up.
It's
Wait,
so
I'll just
delicious.
listen to the podcast.
It's on the podcast.
Yeah.
Listen to it. But as they're describing this guy, this leader of this cult, and I'm thinking Monica's always accusing me of this, and I hate it. I can't stand it. But boy, are they checking a lot of my boxes. with
yeah.
this guy.
Why do you hate it, bro? Being a cult leader? Dude, I was doing my podcast like about 7-8 episodes in. I was like, oh man! First of all, I do stand up. I do podcasts. I mean, TV and shit. I do some movies. Like, I'm on social media. I was like, dude, if I just streamline all of this. It's a fuck it. I just said it's a cult, man.
You're the Bhagwan.
If you're in it. You're in it. If you're a part of all this shit, this is a cult. Let's go. Let's fucking. The goal is to get a log cabin in the middle of nowhere and just be sitting pretty, man.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
With all the parishioners, and you got to give them the sacrament, which comes from your penis.
We talk about ideas. There's probably a lot of common. You know what I mean? There's probably a lot of common. You know what I mean? But like, it's all good and it's consensual.
Well, so most of the time I'm listening to it, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm delusional, and I think I am. But luckily, where it breaks down is all these leaders turn into sex gurus.
All of them.
They all are preying on underage. That is
weird.
not happening with me.
Well, yeah, but you don't have to do that. Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. Also, there's this really elevated, they start lying about their accomplishments. So this guy claims he's the smartest person in the
Right.
world.
Okay.
That he got 250 on an IQ test. So there's a lot of like lore you spin around
Sure.
yourself. And all of them claim to have had some kind of transcendent metaphysical thing. And again, I'm like, no, I'm not special. These people, these guys, these cult leaders, they all claim to have some purchase on some otherworldly experience that you can't have.
Yeah.
And they've reached a level that you can't reach. So I was like, oh, I'm out, because
Okay.
I really hate more than anything people that have reverie for other people.
Yeah.
I think all humans are pieces of shit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I reject it.
Sure, but I could be the anti-cult. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's like,
I think
but
it's fine
like,
if
no,
you're
there's no end of days.
No.
There's too many days.
Could you go like, I'm a piece of shit?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
the
like-
highest level.
Yeah. Okay, that's what you're reaching. POS. Because it's all got to be acronyms. It's the same with, like, as I was listening to it, there's a lot of overlap with Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard. There's a lot of overlap with all these. They all have a pretty well-worn path to get these people believing there's something.
Yeah.
And it's all weird primate stuff. It's all
weird, yeah.
status. And anyway, so as long as you own that you're a piece of shit, I'll even maybe join.
I'll join.
Maybe the goal is like
Good.
to get even
Got two more
lower than
members.
me. To get even lower than me,
Yep.
which is almost impossible.
Low as fuck. We find the lowest point on earth to get the log cabin.
Well, anyways,
underwater.
so people should check out. Congratulations with you. Go see Chris. Do stand up, and you're just spectacular. You have such a an ownership of who you are. It's pretty intoxicating. I love it. So people should go see you, and they should listen to your podcast, and they should join your cult.
Yeah.
and take the sacrament. From
Sure,
your
if you want.
festivals.
It's not the kind of thing that's like, you need to
forcing
join.
you.
It's like, you figure it out. You want to be a part, we be a part of it.
All right. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, buddy.
And now my favorite part of the show, the fact check with my soulmate, Monica Padman. Welcome to the fact check, Monica.
Welcome. Well, Chris,
Dalia.
he was great.
Yeah.
So he talks about, or Jackie comes up, our friend Jackie.
Jackie Tone.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to say hi to Jackie. I don't know if she listens, but.
Hi, Jackie.
And we talk about her being on Howard's wrap-up show,
Yes.
which is exciting.
Very exciting. And also she sang, she did a great parody of the Star is Born song about Robin's
Shallows.
tits, right?
Yeah.
There's many, many love songs to Robin Quiver's breasts on the Howard Stern show. There's hundreds and hundreds that have been made, and she made one, and it ended up on the program.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Do they play that every day? Or not Jackie's, but do they play a new breast song every day?
Pretty much. There's songs about a lot. There's songs about Gary Baba Booey's teeth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, almost every episode. His horse teeth.
Oh, okay.
And there's songs about different members of the crew that people don't like. Like they don't like Benji, so there's mean songs about Benji.
Okay.
And then there's generally the songs about Robin are about her breasts.
Oh,
Yeah. She loves them.
Right.
And they're really creative and
that's
they're fun for everyone.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jackie has the honor of having had one played.
Yeah, that's special.
Mm-hmm.
She's an incredible musician.
She sure is.
Yeah. People know her from our Christmas special, from Glow
Los Angeles Live.
show. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So he mentions his dad's current show, something with Eva Longoria, something about a hotel. It's called Grand Hotel.
He didn't know.
He didn't know.
Yeah.
No.
Typical son dad stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. Speaking of that, because you said my dad's a civil engineer, and I'm like, no, he's not. He's a structural engineer.
Structural.
But it's the same. Well,
He's a
struct-
mechanical engineer, probably.
No, he's a structural engineer, but
Okay.
that is a specific
subfield of civil engineer.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. So I texted him today to get that info.
Right. So you have mechanical engineers, and they're designing cars generally and moving parts, right? And then you have electrical engineers, and they're doing obviously electricity, right? And then you have civil engineers that are then doing structures, public work projects, dams, bridges, roads,
Sure, lots of stuff.
all that great stuff.
Yeah, and you have sound engineers.
Oh, but I don't think they're engineers in the traditional sense. I don't think that's a
don't
4-year degree.
Probably not.
No, that's not to throw shade on the
Sound industry.
or sound engineers.
Yeah.
And then you also have Imagineers over at Disney who draw
I
all
love
the
those
cartoons.
guys.
Imagineers.
Yeah. Oh, those are my favorite kind of engineers. Sorry, Dad.
Imagineers.
Yeah. Anyway, Grand Hotel, that's the show. Eva Longoria executive produces this bold, provocative drama set at the last family-owned hotel in multicultural Miami Beach. So that sounds interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Grand Hotel. So you asked about Chris's Italian grandparents, and you said, what do you call them? Nana and Pippi. Those might be Italian grandparent names, but the ones I know are Nona and Nono.
Mm.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'd want to be No-No.
Yeah. I feel like I'm saying it wrong, but
Nona and Nono.
it's definitely Nona.
Mimi and Pippi is French. That's what I had to call my grandpa because he
Oh.
was French.
Oh,
But Mimi, Grandma Midge was not going for Mimi.
she didn't want
No,
that.
she was Belgium. So she was like, just because I married a Frenchman doesn't mean I'm going by Mimi.
Oh, so she
So-
wanted Grandma Midge.
Grandma Midge and Pippi
Yeah.
or Pip. We just shortened it.
That's cute.
Yeah.
Hey, that's really cute.
I had a falling out though with Pip.
You did?
Yeah. We were best buddies. I
Uh-huh.
used to go spend a few weeks there in the summer and we would go canoeing almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this is so dangerous. We would canoe with his moped in the center of the canoe, which made the
What?
canoe so top heavy.
Oh
and the
my-
canoe already almost tips over so easy, right?
Yeah.
But my Pippi was the most brilliantly stubborn man. I mean, if you want to know where it comes from, it is straight from Pippi. This guy,
Oh.
he had a will like you never saw. So he needed to canoe a lot.
Yeah.
Problem is, you canoe downstream, then you pull over, and how the fuck do you get back to your truck?
Uh-huh.
So what he would do is we would load a goddamn Solex moped into the center of a canoe, strap it down. I was very nervous about the whole thing, but he would pack me one Twinkie. And that was
Wow.
worth the whole thing for me.
Okay. And you never capsized.
We never capsized, and what would happen is we would canoe for a couple hours. We'd pull over. We'd unload the Solex moped. He would then ride the Solex moped down the Indiana toll road. That's illegal. You can't ride a moped that goes 20 down the fucking highway.
Okay.
And I would sit with the canoe in a field at, I don't know, 7 years old for
By yourself.
at least an hour. It took him forever to get the
Sure.
moped back to the truck. And then he'd have to load the moped into the truck by himself. And the whole time I'm just sitting there.
Oh, eating your Twinkie, I hope.
No, I'd already indulged in that on the
You
waterway.
couldn't wait.
And he sang this song too every time we canoed. And he had made it up. He said, "It's the only way I know. It's the only way I go.
Oh.
Put your oar in the water and paddle down the stream." And this song he just made up.
That's
I'd hate to
sweet.
find out that was actually a song, but it was the only way he knows. It's the only way he goes. So we were bros.
Okay.
We also went camping.
Okay.
I remember this very clearly.
Okay.
We made hot dogs. He didn't bring ketchup. He said, "We have open pit barbecue sauce. Why don't you try that?" I put the open pit barbecue sauce on the hot dog. By God, it was fucking delicious.
You loved it.
I was at a 9. I'm eating this hot dog with open pit barbecue. There's a fire going, just he and I camping.
Okay.
And he says, "You know, your father doesn't love you."
Oh boy. Out of what?
Yep. My Pippi loved my dad. When they got married, he was so into my dad. My dad was
Yeah.
like a real go-getter. He bought a house for he and my mom.
Mm-hmm.
He was big. My Pippi was a small Frenchman. He loved that my
Oh.
dad was big, and he just loved him.
Yeah.
And then he was so disappointed when they got divorced.
Mm,
And then, of course, my father then began struggling with alcoholism.
right.
I now have the perspective that I imagine in Pippi's mind, he was letting me know. I think he was attempting to say, "Don't take this personal. Your dad's not choosing this stuff over you." I don't know.
Really?
I don't know. But I'll tell you this. He said, "Your father doesn't love you. That's why he's acting that way."
Oh boy.
And from that day
That's
on, I
crazy.
never liked Pippi again. I never
Yeah.
wanted to go canoeing, never wanted to go camping, didn't want to go visit
Of course
anymore.
you didn't. Yeah. Who would want to go visit that?
Yeah, and it speaks a lot to like the loyalty you have with your parents. Because even though I was angry at my dad,
Oh. But it's not even, it is that, it's loyalty, but it's also, he's telling you the one thing that you are fearing. He's telling you that that's the truth. No, that's horrible.
yeah.
And it's not the truth.
I have to imagine though that he thought that was somehow going to be helpful. He was not a mean man. He was a
No.
very loving, he loved me and he
Yeah.
was taking me everywhere and we were pals. But yeah, that was a wrap on Pip for me. I mean, I was cordial to him, but I never, yeah.
Well, I think that he maybe was so protective of your mom
Mm-hmm.
that he hated your dad at that point
For sure.
and felt like maybe in his brain, he felt like he must not love these children because he did all this,
I bet he had this like old-fashioned tough love thing where he didn't want to see me pine for my dad's affection for the next 12 years and not get it. So he was trying to rip the Band-Aid off and make me just move on. Like, forget about him.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I
Again,
don't know. That just doesn't seem like.
I have
maybe.
to assume his intention was altruistic, but of course I couldn't see it at 8 years old or whatever it was.
But it could have been altruistic, or it could have been a human slip of defense, again, protection.
Yeah.
Or defense of your mom, and maybe he's with you and he's seeing this and he's like, this low life person who could be having all this isn't. He just got angry and maybe said that.
Yeah, he had a great temper.
Oh, he
Pippi.
did?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, the side of my mom that would get out at stoplights and challenge men to fights did not come from Grandma Midge. That's 100% Pippi.
Oh.
Yeah.
Also, Grandma Midge is still with us.
93.
Yeah, that's great.
Down in Homosassa, Florida.
Oh. Homosassa.
I'm likely saying that wrong, but it
Okay.
sounds similar to that, yeah.
Well, anyway, that's a sad story. I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah. I wish I would have been old enough because he died when I'll never forget because we were in, when I detasseled corn, I stayed with them. They lived on the border of Indiana. So my cousin and I went and detasseled corn in the summer. And I remember right when we got back from that, he went into the hospital with stomach cancer and he was dead.
Wow.
He died so quick of that. And I wasn't old enough to have recognized that he was probably trying to help me. So unfortunately, I never had the perspective. Yeah, I never patched things up with him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like you just needed to do that in your own mind anyway. It didn't sound like you were mean to him or anything.
I wonder if it ever occurred to him oh, we don't hang out anymore. I wonder if I did anything. I don't know. These older men from older generations, they had such pride.
Yeah.
That they would they'd fuck up and they would they'd sooner write someone off than deal with admitting they erred or something.
I know. I do think things were way different.
Yeah, men were way different.
Yeah.
I think they're moving in the right direction.
I think so.
Yeah.
I definitely think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine telling if my kids have kids, telling one of their kids that their father doesn't love them.
No.
I just wouldn't happen.
It's not even.
It's not on the menu.
It's not something an Imagineer could ever create. But I hope you didn't believe him. Because that's.
No,
not
I didn't.
true.
No, my dad loved me like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just was, That's the other thing. I think of all these addiction conversations we've had recently, like Johan Hari and all this, I do want people to remember because it's really easy to feel, because it's true that the person's picked this addiction over you, that you weren't more important than that addiction. But I do just want to remind people that they also picked the addiction over themselves.
Yeah.
They're picking it over themselves as well. First and foremost, they're destroying themselves. So if they don't even have the will to care about themselves, and it's hard to extend that out,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's very true. Oh, is bad memory a side effect of antidepressants? Antidepressants are a very effective medication for both depression and anxiety, but unfortunately, they do cause some bothersome side effects in some people, including loss of libido, weight loss, or gain. This is
I know. I hate
nausea, insomnia, fatigue, and also memory loss.
too sleepy and insomnia, lethargy.
What were we watching?
Oh, my
Recently,
gosh.
Me and you were watching the R. Kelly documentary.
And we were watching it DirecTV
Yeah,
playback, and
yeah.
they had only, I guess, sold.
2 commercials.
What was the product? You had remembered it the next day. I
know.
was impressed
It
that you
was-
remembered it.
Because the name of it was something.
Abilify?
no.
No.
I can't remember. I'll say it on the next fact check. I'll find it. But anyway, the whole commercial was listing side effects. It was a sketch.
It was a sketch. There was one positive statement at the beginning. It was one sentence like, oh, my skin feels better. And then it went on and we timed it. It was like a 90-second commercial to fit in all the side effects. And it listed every single thing that could go wrong with a human.
And there
Remember
were
we were
always conflicting things. Like like cancer was like one of them.
Sure, liver failure. Like we slowly we started going through, and it ticked every organ was going to potentially fail because of this.
It was so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so memory loss can be a side effect. Not always, but can be.
Can be.
Yeah.
Well, guess it's worth it, though.
I think it is.
If you're suicidal, you'd rather be alive than remember last week.
And you probably don't want to remember last week.
Yeah.
If you wanted to kill yourself.
What if that's all that medication was doing, was wiping out your memory because the memory was what was making you depressed?
That's the sad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like a magician.
Ooh. Sleight of hand.
Hey. But I do want to clarify when we're talking about memory, when we're talking about Kristen, that her memory is actually astounding in a few ways. But, and we've said that before on here, like she's incredibly good at memorizing lines, which she is. Sometimes she'll help me with auditions and we'll read it once and then she's like
off book.
Totally off book.
Yes.
It's incredible.
Maddening.
It really is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Game of Thrones, she can name all those characters and the
also,
plot lines.
Plot lines of things we watched years ago, lyrics for songs, impeccable.
Yeah, so she has like a kind of crazy savant-like memory in some ways. But then I started thinking when I was listening to this, I was like, actually, I wonder if that's not memory. That is maybe something else, a different compartment where like, definitely with the lines, that must be just a muscle that's now been used a ton that she has a lot of access to and a lot of practice. Her muscles like toit.
Mine's been getting toit because I've been back to work on a single cam.
Yeah.
On Bless This Mess, and I am finding that even by week 2, I can just read the sides in rehearsal one time and then shoot it, and I have it. Yeah. Which is what I used to be able to do on Parenthood, but I had anxiety going back to single cam that I was going to struggle with that, and it came back pretty quick.
Yeah. So I'm starting to think that it's not memory, that's like some different type of compartment. Maybe even Game of Thrones is a different compartment. I don't know.
Bunch of secret compartments.
All right. Well, you said you haven't cried in 11 years, and that's just boo hockey.
Yeah, I need to be clear about that. Like
you cry every day now.
I tear up every day now, yeah. Yep, I do. That's right. But
it's cute.
You know the kind of cry where you like you can't catch your breath and you're actually audibly crying and stuff? Yes.
Yeah.
Last time that happened was when my dad got in a head-on collision and I was in the hospital. And I was 14 when that happened. That's the last like big
cry.
And then a half cry when I had my concussion. I aspire to have a big cry, like where I'm like all that, and I can't catch my breath. Yeah, I really want that back. Yeah.
I hope you get it.
But it wasn't manly when I was a kid.
I know.
You know what it really was is a response to not allowing my brother to have power over me. That's what 100% what it is. Is like I knew the reward for fucking with me is that I would cry.
Right.
And then I couldn't give him that victory.
Yeah.
I believe that's what it is.
So you just got trained.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, the cutest thing was when Aaron and Weekly and I would get in trouble, which was, once a week in junior high. And we would go down to Bart Montani, our principal's office. Bart would get one sentence out and Aaron would just be bawling. And I would stare directly at Bart Montani, mad that he's making Aaron cry. Like I'd be infuriated by this whole thing. And I'd be mad dogging him and eye fucking him while Aaron's crying.
Oh,
I wish there was video of
Aaron?
that. Of course.
You did?
Yes, of course. Always I'd put my arm around him.
Oh,
I fucking love my son so much.
I know. I think that's so cute. You know that boys crying was like a fetish of mine.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's one of your...
I guess I shouldn't say was.
It's one of your love languages.
Probably still is. I just haven't experienced that in a long time. But I remember this one boy on the football team who I had a big crush on from afar. He was so cute. I was obsessed with him. I used to draw like whole papers of his name and but it was a good doodle. Like sometimes we'd spend all day in class just making doodles and then passing them to our friends.
Oh, really?
For a long time. Yes. And then he was on the football team and I don't know if it was like the last game or something, but he was crying.
Oh, man.
I just couldn't
Euphoric?
handle it. Yeah. Yeah.
Could you
it was
describe
really-
the feelings?
Well, and I wish I could remember the phrase. So Callie reminded me of this recently, that I used to call it something because it would like, your eyes will like fill up and then sometimes there's just like a little bit of tear that starts to fall.
Yeah. That's the foreplay for you? or-
Yeah, I really like that. And I used to call it something and now I'm forgetting. But anyway.
And you want to go over and start nurturing the boy.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And then maybe that'll lead to some kissing.
Yeah, absolutely will.
Yeah.
And more.
Yeah. That's kind of a well-worn trope in movies where like the woman's crying, the man's comforting the woman, and then they
Yeah.
start kissing. I've seen that in a lot of movies in the 80s.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Or it's always like the plot line of when like the girl breaks up with the guy's friend, and then the guy's
it's
consoling her,
comforting.
and then kissing
Of
happens.
course.
Mhm. I've been in that situation a couple times. And that felt pretty unethical. Shooting fish in a barrel. Yeah.
So it's really exploiting someone.
I want someone's approval on their best day.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it's a vulnerability thing that's attractive.
Yeah.
To me, it's very attractive.
So your dream greeting would be a double handshake while crying. That'd be straight to the hotel.
Also, they can't be crying for no reason. It has to be warranted. If they're just
Right.
like crying all the time,
Because they're a crybaby.
Yeah, that I'm not interested. That
Okay.
I'm not interested.
Like they're
in.
just sobbing all the time.
Yeah.
I get all right. So I'm going to guess that your very favorite moment of any scene ever filmed
Yeah, it's obvious.
is Matt Damon in
Yeah.
therapy in Good Will Hunting.
Love that scene
Oh.
so much. I watched the movie last night.
I know. You said you stumbled upon it, and I
I
said,
did.
"What in your search?"
I know. But no, I didn't. It just appeared. I didn't know it was on Netflix.
Just a little gift fell into your lap.
It was.
And when you got to that scene, did you kind of perk up?
PQ.
Yeah. Does it still have the same power?
Yeah.
Wow.
But it has a different power now because now it's like mixed with like it's like the other day I drove by a high school and I got all of these unexpected feelings when I drove by.
Sensations.
Sensations and feelings.
Yeah.
All kinds of things. And it's sort of that now, that movie, because now it's tied to like
Youth.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there.
So much going on.
Powerful piece.
Complicated.
Powerful piece.
It's such a good movie. Oh, so
God, if
good.
we get Matt Damon here and I could get him to cry.
Ah!
What a thing. That would be
I'd
the
have to
first thing
pack
I'd be
some
willing.
underwear.
Yeah, that's the first thing I'd be willing to run video on.
his tears.
And I'd have Robbie doing a slow pushing on you as he was crying. Like the conventional wisdom would be like, oh, camera on the guy who's crying. That's where the money's at.
Sure.
No. Pan left,
Yeah.
get Monica.
That's like at weddings when the bride appears, everyone's looking at the bride, but you should be looking at the groom to see the groom's reaction.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
know that trick.
That's a
You-
good trick.
You know a lot about weddings. I didn't
Well,
know
that's
that.
also the guy is about to cry, so that's where I look.
Oh, sure. That makes sense.
So,
You get hot for the groom at a wedding.
well,
Well, I
I'm
think it
not going to say
happens.
it hasn't happened.
Sure.
Oh, this episode was really Luke Perry heavy. We talked
And
a
he
lot
hadn't
about.
died yet.
No, he hadn't. He had not. So we weren't
So
being
it'll so-
insensitive.
Yeah, maybe it sounds cold that none of us said like
Yeah.
rest in peace or something.
Right.
Mm,
Should we have said that in the intro?
mm,
Maybe.
maybe.
But anyway, it's really sad.
Yeah, totally. You had a heart
A
attack?
stroke.
A stroke.
Yeah. And
Mm.
he's really young still. And
He's got a family.
yeah, it's horrible. It's really sad. Anyway, okay, so he said in middle school there's only 7th and 8th grade in LA.
Mm,
So then I checked about that to my mom friends on Marco Polo,
mm-hmm.
and they said it depends on the district, but no, most schools in the LAUSD program are 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Oh, okay.
So he must have had just a random experience.
That is, I've had friends that just had 7th and 8th. That's
That's
always
weird.
confusing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was mine.
You were
7th
7th and 8th?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Wow, I wonder what impact that had on you, Bobby. Wow. You're happily married with a child and
So-
gainfully employed, so
Clearly it didn't derail Wabi too much.
no.
Did Crystalia and Kristen have sex? I asked Kristen. She said she doesn't know, so we can say yes.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great.
So they did have sex.
Perfect. You heard it here second.
That's right. That is right. You said that you were talking about Dane Cook, and you said you can't think of a comedian, a stand-up comedian that all these girls want to fuck, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not true.
It's not true.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I think in your point of view, you're looking at the person and assessing the person's physical presence and saying like, well, that person isn't someone who immediately they'll walk off stage and all these girls are going to be flocking to him.
Uh-huh.
But girls care about what's coming out of their mouth.
Yeah.
And if they're good, yeah, that's it.
I guess I more mean like if you look at the history of comedy, generally, this goes for talk show hosts, this goes, generally they play a role that is they're the butt of the joke. It's just kind of
it can
the
happen.
vast majority. It's like, it's like Will Ferrell's stumbling around and Chris Farley stumbling around.
Not afraid to look stupid.
Yeah, there's all these things. And then there's a couple of rare examples like Vince Vaughn, who's like, he's just some alpha stud who's also funny.
Uh-huh.
That's less normal, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think you're right, but I think you're seeing that from a very male perspective. Like,
Sure.
I don't think women are less or more attracted to Will Ferrell or Vince Vaughn, if I'm being honest. I think if they see both of those, like, they want both.
Well, but she's not going over just to get banged. She wants the whole package.
But girls,
I mean, girls,
See,
don't
but
you think,
no,
like,
because-
can we say percentage-wise though, that girls would want to have sex with Vince Vaughn at a much higher percentage than Chris Farley or Will Ferrell?
see, Chris Farley, yes, but that's a very, very specific
Extreme example.
Yes.
Okay.
But I think most girls, sex is tied to the other stuff. In the fantasy, it's not just sex. There's so much more to it. So it is different than a guy who's seeing a girl who's like, I want to fuck that girl, but then we'll leave and I'll be happy. And I never need to see that person again. That's not what's happening in fantasies for girls.
Well, I would believe if you said the majority of women would want to marry Will Ferrell over Vince Vaughn, I'd go, I totally believe that.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying in your brain, you have it separated because men do that and women do that far less.
I agree. Totally far less. But I also have the unique experience of being friends with somebody who's an actor who female friends of mine have texted me saying, I want to fuck him. I don't want anything else from him. So I'm aware of the fact that some guys, not me, some guys have this thing where women will be happy with just fucking.
I guess that's true. In there, I'm sure there are exceptions, but I can say pretty confidently that for the most part, the female fantasy is about the whole thing. It's about sex, but it's also about being with that person and the way that person makes them feel. And men, I think the fantasy is more raw.
Yeah, I also think it's relevant what the artist is selling. So it's like you have certain boy bands that they're pushing that they're virgins.
Right.
Right. So the girls that are going to those shows, it's like a much safer. But if you like the Rolling
Still
Stones.
could be kinky. It still could be like, I want to be the person that.
Yeah, for sure. But the Rolling Stones were explicitly advertising, we like to fuck.
Yeah.
So like. I don't know. I just think there's something different about what message you're putting out there and then who's responding to the message.
But also with comedy, if we're just in that category, which we were, your actor friends are a little bit of a different story.
Sure.
But with comedy and comics who are writing their own shit, they're selling their personality regardless of what they look like.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think most girls are like, oh, I just want to fuck that person and that's it. Because there's personality attached. That's them.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever's attractive is the combination of whatever they look like plus whatever they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the girls who I think there are a lot of girls who want to fuck comics, but I think it's because of what they're saying, not what they look like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then sometimes, though, they have both things.
Sometimes they have both things. Yeah. Yeah. That's really it.
That's it?
Yeah.
What's the last one? You can
Oh,
cut it out.
no, it was just about cults.
Oh, yeah.
Just because Chris likes cults.
He's a comfortable saying he's a cult leader.
Yeah, and you're not comfortable with that, even
No.
though I say that you are one.
Yeah, I never like it.
I know you don't. But I don't really think that. Some days I think it more than others.
Oh, what are some of the days you thought it the most?
No, I don't know specifically, but
When I'm particularly arrogant or something on a day?
no, it really has nothing to do with you, weirdly. I mean, it does. It's because, I mean, you're obviously like charismatic and
I think I'm just tall.
no.
I think it gets misunderstood.
No, you're smart. So you're like, you're giving people information they don't have. That's a big component of it, I think.
Of cultness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're gaining something from your presence.
But I am leading with the fact that this is not my information. I grabbed it from AA and I'm like
Curating.
kind of passing it on. Whereas like this is my issue with
You're kind of the
Deepak Chopra. Is I tried to read his book, all these people like him, and then the intro to the book is that he had some, otherworldly metaphysical experience on a park bench, and then I'm out because I'm like, oh, you just basically said you've had some divinity strike you, so what you have, no one else can have,
Right.
and you're gonna let us have some shittier version that we'll never obtain. I was like, I'm out. If you're just telling me like what you read about some scientific study or what you heard somewhere else.
Yeah.
Cool. I think it's when the person is pretending that the knowledge is theirs.
That's true. Although I feel like you can have like original thoughts based on other people's
Yes.
work, I guess.
For sure. For sure.
And that's good.
Yeah. But I'm just a regular old scumbag junkie who's, picked up a couple of pearls that
Yeah.
I repeat.
Yeah.
That's all.
But anyway, I'm just, I think you're a cult leader.
Okay. Well, I love you
Love you.
and have a wonderful week.